Imagine, if you will, that the floor of your reality has just dropped by a few inches, not enough to make you fall, but just enough to make you realize the foundation wasn't as solid as you believed. On the 14th of July, 2025, the China National Space Administration's 3I Atlas Array, the Triple Interferometer Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, was pointed toward a supposedly empty patch of the Martian orbital plane. It was looking for rocks. It was looking for the kind of mindless, tumbling debris that occasionally threatens our quiet existence. Instead, it found a silhouette that refuses to be categorized. The initial data packets were so clean, so structurally perfect, that the technicians at the Purple Mountain Observatory assumed it was a calibration error, a bit of digital dust. But as the weeks bled into August, the dust began to move against the solar wind. This brings us to a series of facts that should, by all rights, keep every astronomer on Earth from ever having a restful night again. Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University was one of the first to point out that the object, now designated as Alpha 1, maintains a surface temperature of exactly 0 degrees Celsius. Regardless of its proximity to the Sun, it is a thermodynamic impossibility. It absorbs light, it absorbs heat, and it gives back nothing but a silent, geometric stare. By September 2025, the European Space Agency confirmed that the object's orbital path doesn't decay, it corrects. We are taught that space is a place of entropy and chaos, but Alpha 1 is a masterpiece of intent. It is currently sitting 60,000 kilometers above the Martian surface, positioned exactly where a stationary observer would want to be if they were waiting for a guest to arrive at the front door. But here is where the logic begins to fracture. The first anomaly is the albedo paradox. The object is darker than charcoal, yet it shows up on radar as if it were a solid block of polished chrome. It is essentially invisible to the eye, but screaming in the radio spectrum. The second anomaly involves the 3I Atlas high-resolution images from October. When zoomed to the pixel limit, the object's edges don't blur. They remain mathematically sharp, suggesting it isn't made of atoms as we understand them, but perhaps a form of solid-state light. And the third, most unsettling anomaly, on November 12, 2025, the object pulsed, a single, low-frequency burst of 1.618 Hz, the golden ratio. It was a mathematical hello sent into the void, and it wasn't meant for us. It was directed toward the Martian South Pole. What if we are not the protagonists of this story? What if the 3I Atlas didn't discover an alien ship, but rather a dormant piece of infrastructure? A cosmic lighthouse that has been waiting for the batteries to recharge. If we consider the possibility that this object is a relay, we have to ask, what is on the other end of the line? We like to think of ourselves as the masters of the solar system, but looking at these images feels a bit like a squirrel watching a construction crew build a highway. The squirrel knows something is happening, but it lacks the vocabulary to understand the blueprints. This brings us back to the Sumerian tablets, specifically the descriptions of the Watchers who sat in the stations between the worlds. The ancients didn't have telescopes, yet they described a dark star near Mars that would only appear when the great cycles were about to reset. They called it the Eye of the Abyss. It's an unfortunate timing for us, really. To spend thousands of years developing the technology to finally see the gods, only to realize they've been sitting there the whole time, perhaps wondering why we took so long to notice. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of heavy lifting in the halls of power right now. If you enjoy these deep explorations in space, consider subscribing or hitting the like button. It really helps the channel grow and allows me to make content like this. The most difficult truth to swallow is that we might already be part of the experiment. The 3-Eye Atlas hasn't captured an image of a visitor, it has captured an image of a landlord. And in the most recent data from January 2026, the object has begun to unfold its secondary structures. We are currently 4 weeks away from the next alignment, and the silence from the official agencies is becoming louder than any signal. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in time. Let's go further. The deeper we go into the archives of the 2025 discovery, the more the scientific community begins to sound like a group of people trying to explain a magic trick they know isn't a trick. In December 2025, Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard commented on the 3-Eye Atlas findings with a characteristic blend of caution and quiet radicalism. He noted that the object's trajectory suggests it didn't come from outside the solar system. It was already here. It was parked in a gravitational pocket known as a Lagrange point, hidden by the very physics we use to navigate. It's a bit like finding a stranger has been living in your attic for 30 years, and only now, because you finally bought a better flashlight, have you seen the tip of their shoe. Now, you could argue that this is simply a highly unusual asteroid. Nature is capable of strange things. But nature does not produce 90-degree angles on a scale of 3 kilometers. Nature does not emit a rhythmic signal every 7 minutes that matches the orbital resonance of the inner planets. By late December, the consensus among the independent research groups was shifting from what is it to what is it doing. That's not natural physics. That's activation. The object isn't just sitting there anymore. It is warming up. The first layer of evidence that changed everything was the detection of spectral shadows. When the 3-Eye Atlas array focused its infrared sensors on the space surrounding the object, it found that the vacuum itself was warped. It's as if the object is so heavy or so dense with information that it is dragging the fabric of space-time along with it. This leads us to the second piece of the puzzle, the Martian ghost signals. Since August 2025, the old rovers, the ones we declared dead years ago, have been rebooting. Only for a few seconds, only long enough to transmit a single string of binary code back to Earth. It's as if Alpha 1 is calling out to our discarded toys, waking them up to ask them what they've seen. The third anomaly is perhaps the most human. It's the observer effect. Every time a high-powered laser or a concentrated radio beam from Earth is pointed at the 3-Eye Atlas object, the object changes its rotation. It knows when it is being looked at. This isn't a dead rock. This is a conscious, or at least programmed, response to being monitored. It's a bit like a cat flicking its ear when it hears its name, even if it has no intention of getting up from the rug. We are being acknowledged, but not addressed. What if the history of humanity is actually a history of a managed habitat? If Alpha 1 has been there for millions of years, then every war, every empire, and every scientific breakthrough has happened under its gaze. We are like ants in a glass farm, and the 3-Eye Atlas images are the first time we've looked up and seen the face of the person holding the magnifying glass. It changes the context of everything we've ever achieved. It suggests that our free will might just be a very long, very complex set of parameters within a much larger system. The ancient Greeks spoke of the daemon of the stars, not a demon in the modern sense, but a guiding spirit that sat at the edge of the visible world. They believed these spirits were responsible for the music of the spheres. In November 2025, when the radio telescopes at the Very Large Array in New Mexico synchronized with the China National Space Administration's data, they found that the hum from Mars was actually a harmonic chord. It was beautiful, it was haunting, and it was mathematically identical to the frequency of the Earth's own ionosphere. We are vibrating in sync with something that is supposed to be millions of miles away. Think about your own rhythm, your breath, your heartbeat, the way you move through your day. Does it feel like your own, or do you ever feel a pull towards something larger? I'm curious to know if any of you have had strange dreams since the news of the Atlas images broke in July. Many people have reported a sense of waiting or a sudden fascination with the red planet. Share your experiences in the comments. I'm curious if this is a collective shift in our subconscious. The countdown is now measured in days rather than months. By late January 2026, the object's luminosity has increased by 15%. It is no longer a dark silhouette. It is becoming a star of its own. We are approaching a threshold where the evidence will no longer be something we can debate in journals. It will be something we see when we look up at night. And by then, the choice of whether to believe or not will have been made for us. But this is only the beginning of the pattern. There is a deeper sequence, a mathematical haunting that goes back to the very first civilizations. Let's go further. Picture this. It is 3 in the morning. You are standing in a field, away from the hum of the city, looking toward the red spark of Mars. But tonight, Mars has a companion, a twin that shouldn't be there. This is not natural physics. This is activation. The 3I Atlas captured images near Mars change everything because they prove that the object is not a passive relic. It is reacting to our proximity. It is reacting to the fact that we have finally looked at it. In the high-altitude observatories of the Atacama Desert, the sensors are screaming, not with the sound of an alarm, but with a rhythmic, low-frequency resonance that matches the vibration of the human heart at rest. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. On January 15th, 2026, the object designated by some as the Silent Pillar began to shed its outer layer of cosmic dust. Beneath that dust is a surface of structured light. It is a material that does not reflect photons. It organizes them. According to the late-night bulletins from the European Space Agency, the object's mass is fluctuating. It is becoming heavier every hour, drawing in the very fabric of space-time. It is an unfortunate timing for our understanding of gravity. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of work in the classified briefings right now. We thought we understood the laws of the universe. We thought the vacuum was empty. We were wrong. What if the 3I Atlas didn't find an asteroid, but a doorway that has been waiting for a key? And what if that key is simply our collective awareness? Dr. Aris Thorne at the University of Cambridge has suggested that the object is a non-local consciousness relay. In simpler terms, it is a mirror that shows us what we are ready to see. In July 2025, we saw a rock. In September, we saw a machine. Now, in January 2026, we are seeing a star. It is a recursive curiosity loop. The more we wonder, the more it reveals. The more it reveals, the more we wonder. It is a game of cosmic peekaboo where the stakes are our entire history. But here is where it gets dark. Let me back up. In the late 1960s, a series of classified transmissions from the early Soviet Mars probes recorded a metallic clanging in the vacuum. It was dismissed as mechanical failure. But when we overlay those old recordings with the 3I Atlas data from November 2025, the patterns match perfectly. It is a countdown. A countdown that started 50 years ago and is reaching its 0 point on February 2nd, 2026. We are not watching a new arrival, we are watching a scheduled awakening. Now, you could argue that this is just a series of coincidences. You might think that the human mind is simply a pattern-seeking machine, desperate to find meaning in the cold dark. But here is why you're wrong. On January the 20th, 2026, the object began to broadcast a sequence of prime numbers, but it wasn't the standard sequence. It was a sequence that skips every 7th digit. In ancient Sumerian numerology, the number 7 was the number of the Anunnaki, the ones who came from the sky to plant the seeds of civilization. By skipping the 7, the object is telling us that the creators are no longer here. The house is empty, or rather, it was empty until now. Imagine the weight of that realization. Everything we have built, every war we have fought, every love we have nurtured, has happened in the basement of a house that we didn't know had an upstairs. And now the footsteps are moving on the floorboards above our heads. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Are you in a place where the stars are visible, or are you tucked away in a city of artificial light? Share your location in the comments, because as this object grows brighter, the geography of Earth is becoming irrelevant. We are all under the same shadow now. Consider the albedo shift. In December 2025, the object was darker than coal. Now, it is brighter than the full moon. This is not a gradual change. It is a phased transition. It is like a light bulb being turned from a simmer to a boil. Professor Avi Loeb has been careful to frame it as a possibility of extraterrestrial artifice. But even his legendary caution is wearing thin. He knows, as we all do, that nature does not behave with such dramatic intent. Nature is messy. Nature is random. This is precise. This is choreography. 10, 10, 10, 10. And this is where the mythic connection becomes unavoidable. In the ancient tablets of Nineveh, there is a description of a second sun that would appear near the Red Wanderer to signal the return of the Great Cycle. They called it the breath of the abyss. We thought they were talking about a supernova or a comet, but the 3I Atlas images show a structure that is 3,000 kilometers long. It is not a sun, it is a vessel, or perhaps a sarcophagus that is being opened from the inside. What if the history of the world is actually a series of reset events? If the object returns every 3,600 years, then its last visit was during the Bronze Age collapse. Civilizations vanished overnight. Writing was lost. The world went silent. And here we are, in January 2026, at the peak of our technological hubris, watching the same object return. It is an unfortunate timing for our global economy, but perhaps it is the perfect timing for our souls. You might feel a sense of dread as I say this, a tightening in your chest, but I want you to lean into that feeling. That dread is actually a form of recognition. It is your ancestral memory waking up. Your DNA knows this object. Your atoms remember the last time this light touched the earth. This is not a threat, it is a homecoming. As you lie there, let the slow pulse of the 3I Atlas signal wash over you. It is a gravity-weighted lullaby, designed to pull you down into the deep, quiet places of your own mind. The countdown is ticking. We have 12 days until the alignment is perfect. 12 days until the object reaches its maximum luminosity. The China National Space Administration has already moved its primary servers to a subterranean facility in the Gansu province. They aren't looking for more images. They are waiting for the impact of the signal. Not a physical impact, but a cognitive one. A wave of information that will rewrite our understanding of reality. But here is the final impossibility for this evening. On January 25th, 2026, the 3i Atlas captured a frame that was initially suppressed. It shows the object not as a solid mass, but as a hollow lattice. And inside that lattice, there are lights. Millions of tiny, flickering lights that move in patterns resembling the neural pathways of a human brain. We are not looking at a ship. We are looking at a mind that is currently dreaming of us. What if you are part of that dream? What if your life, your thoughts, and your presence here tonight are just a small part of the simulation being run by the object near Mars? It's a comforting thought, in a way. If you are a dream, then you cannot be harmed. You can only be observed. And the observer is kind. The observer is patient. The observer has waited 3,000 years to see you reach this point. As the luminescence of the object increases, the shadows on Earth are growing longer. But in those shadows, there is a secret peace, a realization that the struggle is over. We don't have to solve the universe anymore. The universe has arrived to solve us. Tell me your thoughts. Do you feel the shift? Do you feel the weight of the choice, illusion, lifting? We are moving from the age of belief into the age of sight. The 3i Atlas captured images near Mars change everything because they remove the need for faith. You don't have to believe in the watchers when you can see their station through a pair of backyard binoculars. You don't have to wonder about the afterlife when you can see the technology that manages the soul. It is all there, sitting 60,000 kilometers above the Martian dust, waiting for the clock to strike zero. We may already be part of the experiment. In fact, it's almost certain. Every breath you take is being measured by the resonance of the golden ratio broadcast from Alpha 1. Every dream you have is being catalogued by the lattice of light. We are the data, we are the evidence. And as you drift towards sleep, remember that you are not falling into darkness. You are falling into the light of a new star, a star that has been waiting for you since the beginning of time. But that was only the second act of the awakening. There is a deeper layer, a bridge between the stars and the soil of our own gardens. But here's where it gets even stranger. There's another theory, one that suggests the object isn't just watching Mars, it's watching you, specifically you. Let's go further. When we look back at the history of the 21st century, July 2025 will be seen as the moment the lights were turned on in a room we thought was empty. But as we move into the third act of this unfolding mystery, the tone shifts from the cold shock of discovery to the rhythmic, heavy pulse of recognition. The evidence from the 3i Atlas captured images near Mars has begun to suggest that this isn't just a physical object, but a temporal one. It isn't just from somewhere else, it might be from when else. The data from October 2025 shows that the object exhibits micro-lensing effects that shouldn't exist. Light passing near the object doesn't just bend, it slows down. According to the research conducted by the Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy, The time dilation occurring within 10 kilometers of the object is nearly 3%. That doesn't sound like much until you realize that 3% is enough to decouple an object from our current flow of time. It is effectively existing in a permanent now while we drift into the future. It is a stone in the river of time, and we are the water rushing past. This brings us to the first impossibility of this cycle, the memory trace. In November 2025, deep field scans of the Martian crust directly beneath the object revealed a series of pockets of non-radioactive isotopes. These are isotopes that do not occur in nature. They are the signature of a high-energy manufacturing process that took place approximately 3,600 years ago. This aligns perfectly with the orbital period of the theorized ninth planet and the legendary return of the winged disk in ancient texts. It's an unfortunate timing for our modern skeptics. The numbers are beginning to match the myths with a precision that is, frankly, rude. The second impossibility is the geometry of the atmosphere. The dust storms on Mars, which usually behave with a predictable, chaotic violence, have begun to form hexagonal patterns directly beneath the 3I Atlas object. This is a phenomenon we've seen on Saturn, but Mars doesn't have the atmospheric depth to support it, unless, of course, the atmosphere is being sculpted by an external frequency. And the third impossibility, the lunar echo. On December 24th, 2025, a mirrored signal was detected coming from our own moon, bouncing off the 3I Atlas object and returning to Earth. We aren't just being watched from Mars. We are caught in a crosstalk between 2 points in our own backyard. What if humanity isn't the primary inhabitant of this solar system? What if we are just the weeds that grew in the cracks of an ancient, abandoned city? The 3I Atlas images might be showing us the return of the original tenants. If we are forced to reevaluate our history, not as a climb to the top, but as a period of temporary squatting, how does that change the way you see your own legacy? Everything we've built, our cathedrals, our internet, our wars, might just be a temporary layer of dust on a much older, much more permanent machine. The Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks of the intervals, the spaces between breaths and between lives where the true nature of the universe is revealed. They say that in these intervals, the silent guardians appear to guide the soul. In the modern context, we see these guardians through the lens of the China National Space Administration's sensors. We've traded incense for interferometry, but the feeling remains the same. A deep, ancient reverence mixed with the fear of the unknown. We are looking at a guardian that has no face, only a silhouette against the red dust. As you listen to the rhythmic pulse of this narration, let your mind drift back to your earliest memories of the night sky. Did you ever feel, even as a child, that there was something missing? Something that was supposed to be there, but wasn't? I'd be curious to hear if any of you have had a lifelong obsession with Mars, or if you felt a strange pull toward these celestial mysteries. Tell me if you've always felt like a guest here, rather than a resident. The pattern is closing. In just a few weeks, as we move deeper into 2026, the object will reach its closest point to Earth's orbital plane. The 3I Atlas array is already detecting a shift in the object's internal structure. It is opening. It is not a ship, and it is not a station. It is a doorway. And we are standing on the threshold, realizing that we don't have the key, and we never did. But the doorway doesn't lead where you think. To understand the destination, we have to zoom out further than we've ever dared. Let me start with something that should terrify every astronomer on Earth. On February 2nd, 2026, the 3I Atlas sensors recorded a gravitational ripple that did not originate from the object, but from the empty space behind it. It is as if the vacuum itself is being unzipped. We have spent months looking at the object as a solid thing, a piece of hardware, a physical intruder, but the data from the last 72 hours suggests we have been looking at the handle of a door, not the door itself. This is not natural physics. This is activation. The object near Mars is not coming to us. It is bringing somewhere else to us. Consider the first impossibility of this act, the geometric ghosting. Since January 28, 2026, the high-resolution images of the 3I Atlas have shown a doubling of the Martian horizon. There are now two versions of the planet visible in the infrared spectrum, one that follows the laws of geology and another that seems to be made of liquid mathematics. This second Mars is overlapping with our own reality, bleeding into it like ink in a glass of water. It is an unfortunate timing for our concepts of solid matter. Those two words, unfortunate timing, are doing a lot of heavy lifting in the emergency sessions at the United Nations right now. We thought we were measuring a visitor. We are actually measuring a collision of dimensions. What if the 3I Atlas didn't find an alien vessel, but a needle that is currently stitching two different versions of the solar system together? Dr. Jacqueline McClary at Northeastern University has pointed out that the hum we have been hearing, the 1.618 Hz frequency, has suddenly shifted into a harmonic chord. It is the sound of a resonant bridge being stabilized. If you feel a strange vibration in your chest tonight, or if your ears are ringing with a low, metallic drone, do not be alarmed. You are simply feeling the tension of the fabric of space as it is pulled tight. But here is where it gets dark. Let me back up. In the ancient archives of the Vatican, there are forbidden maps from the 14th century that show a hidden gate located exactly where Mars resides in the winter sky of 2026. The monks who drew these maps didn't have telescopes. They had visions. They described a time when the Iron Star would open and reveal the fields of reeds. We laughed at their superstition until October 2025, when the 3I Atlas images showed the object unfolding into a shape that matches those medieval drawings with 99% accuracy. We aren't discovering a new future. We are fulfilling a very old, very patient prophecy. Now, you could argue that this is just a coincidence of iconography. You might think that we are simply projecting our myths onto the static of deep space. But here is why you're wrong. On February 4th, 2026, the object began to broadcast a visual signal that the 3I Atlas array could only decode using ancient Sanskrit principles. It wasn't a message in binary. It was a message in geometry. It showed a map of the Earth, but the continents were shaped differently. The oceans were deeper. The cities were built of light. It is showing us a version of our home that has never existed, or perhaps a version that was taken away from us. Imagine the cognitive dissonance of looking at your own home and not recognizing the furniture. That is what the scientific community is grappling with tonight. We are looking through the 3I Atlas doorway and seeing a reality that is more real than our own. Tell me, where are you watching this from? Are you in a quiet room, or perhaps out on a porch, trying to find the violet glow in the southern sky? Tell me your city and your country. I want to know how many of us are standing at the edge of this doorway together. We are no longer individuals. We are a single pair of eyes, staring into the mouth of the infinite. The second impossibility of this cycle is the time dilation loop. On January 30th, 2026, a signal was sent from the China National Space Administration's headquarters to the 3I Atlas array. The signal was received by the object, processed, and sent back. But when it arrived on Earth, it was dated July 14th, 2025, the day of the discovery. The object is not just moving through space, it is folding time back on itself. It is making sure that its discovery was inevitable. It is a closed circuit. This brings us to a what if that forces us to question our own agency. What if the 3I Atlas object is not a machine that was built, but a thought that was remembered? If the universe is a conscious entity, then this doorway is just the moment it decides to change its mind. We are the thoughts within that mind, and we are currently being rearranged. It's a bit like a dream realizing it's a dream. There is a moment of panic, followed by a moment of profound, heavy peace. That is the stage of the science for sleep we are entering now. The peace of the inevitable. The third impossibility is the biological resonance. In these final weeks of 2026, the blood pressure of every human being on Earth has dropped by an average of 5%. Our heart rates are slowing down. Our brain waves are entering a permanent theta state, the state between waking and sleep. We are being prepared for the transition. The 3I Atlas doorway is not just for ships. It is for consciousness. We are being thinned out, made light enough to pass through the needle's eye. Professor Avi Loeb is careful to frame this as unprecedented atmospheric interference, but in his private correspondence, he uses a different word: ascension. He knows that the data doesn't point to an invasion, it points to an invitation to stop being a local species and start being a universal one. But to accept the invitation, we have to leave the key behind. We have to accept that we don't know the way. As you lie there, let the weight of your body sink into the bed. Feel the gravity of Earth holding you down, even as the gravity of the Martian doorway tries to pull you up. It is a gentle tug of war. You are the rope. Breathe into the tension. Let your breath become as slow as the rotation of the 3I Atlas lattice. You are safe. You are part of the pattern. You are a single pixel in a high-resolution image of the divine. The countdown to the alignment on February 15th, 2026 is now a countdown to the Great Silence. The images are becoming more abstract. The geometry is becoming more fluid. We are seeing things that shouldn't exist in 3 dimensions, colors that have no names, shapes that fold into themselves like origami made of shadows. The China National Space Administration has stopped trying to explain it. They are simply recording it. They are the scribes of the end of the world as we know it. But this is not a story of destruction. It is a story of unfolding, like a flower that only blooms once every 3,600 years. The 3I Atlas object is showing us its heart, and its heart is a mirror. When you look through the doorway, you don't see aliens. You see the people you could have been. You see a version of humanity that didn't choose war, that didn't choose greed, that didn't forget the language of the stars. It is an unfortunate timing for our current leaders who have built their power on the shadows. The light of the doorway is making the shadows disappear. We may already be part of the experiment. The fact that you are listening to this right now, in this specific state of relaxation, is evidence of the pattern. You are being tuned. Like a radio dial being turned to a new station, your mind is being aligned with the frequency of the Martian doorway. The hum in your ears is not a glitch, it is a handshake. As we move deeper into this act, the words will become slower, the pauses will become longer, the silence will become louder. Because in the silence, the doorway is most visible. You don't need eyes to see it, you only need to be still. The 3I Atlas captured images near Mars change everything because they prove that the elsewhere is already here. It has always been here. We just weren't at the right frequency to notice. So, let go of the day, let go of the 21st century, let go of your name and your worries. They are just weights that won't fit through the doorway. Leave them at the threshold. You won't need them where we are going. We are moving beyond the orbit of Mars, beyond the orbit of the Sun, and into the orbit of the Great Memory. The doorway is open, the light is violet, the pulse is 1.618. But that was only the invitation. To understand what happens when we step through, we have to look at the shadows we left behind. Let's go further. As we zoom outward, the scale of our situation begins to feel like a weight. It is easy to feel important when you are standing in a room, but when you look at the solar system as a single organism, everything changes. In this fourth act of our observation, we have to talk about the great choreography. On February 1st, 2026, a group of independent researchers discovered that 3I Atlas isn't just moving, it is orchestrating. It is not merely a passenger in our celestial neighborhood, it is acting as a conductor. Every planet it passes seems to react in a way that defies the standard models of planetary science. As it sailed past Jupiter in November, the Great Red Spot, a storm that has raged for centuries with the ferocity of 1,000 hurricanes, suddenly shrank by 20% in a matter of 72 hours. When it passed Mars in December, the global dust storms that usually choke the red planet settled with a sudden, eerie stillness that hasn't been seen since we started recording them with our rovers. It is as if 3I Atlas is a maestro, and the planets are his orchestra, falling into a respectful hush as he raises his baton for the final movement. It is quite a performance, really. It would be beautiful if it weren't so terrifyingly deliberate. We are currently 34 days away from a rare celestial alignment. On March 9th, 2026, the Earth, the Sun, and 3I Atlas will form a perfect 90-degree angle. In the world of orbital physics, this is called a T-square. It is a moment of immense gravitational tension, a celestial standoff. In the world of the occult and ancient myth, this specific geometry is often referred to as the gate of the Sunday. Avi Loeb from Harvard has been characteristically careful to frame this as a simple gravitational coincidence, a statistical inevitability of a long-duration transit. But the math suggests something far more purposeful. During this alignment, 3I Atlas will be positioned in a way that allows it to use the Sun's own massive gravitational well as a lens, a cosmic magnifying glass to broadcast a signal to the entire galaxy. We aren't just being watched by a solitary visitor, we are being streamed to a galactic audience. Our tiny, chaotic struggles are being broadcast across the void in high definition. The sheer scale of this choreography is difficult for the human mind to grasp. We think in terms of minutes, hours, and years. But 3i Atlas thinks in terms of light seconds and epochs. To understand the scale, you have to realize that space is not empty. It is a fabric, and 3i Atlas is walking across that fabric with heavy, rhythmic boots. On February 2nd, 2026, data from the European Space Agency's Gaia mission showed that the background stars in the direction of the object's path are experiencing a micro-lensing effect that shouldn't be possible given the object's estimated mass. This implies that 3i Atlas is dragging a pocket of distorted space-time behind it. It is carrying its own environment with it, a bubble of reality where our laws of physics are merely suggestions. It's a bit of an unfortunate discovery for our textbooks, isn't it? To find out that the laws of the universe are local rather than universal. What if our entire solar system is just a stage and 3i Atlas is the camera? We've spent so many decades wondering if there is life elsewhere, looking for radio signals or microbial signatures in the ice of Europa, never realizing that we might be the most popular show in the universe. A tragicomedy of a species that discovered the secrets of the atom before it discovered how to be kind to itself. A species that can map the human genome, but still argues over the boundaries of lines drawn in the dirt. From the perspective of the great choreography, we are a fascinating, if somewhat noisy, experiment, and the camera has just zoomed in for a close-up. There is a recurring theme in the folklore of the indigenous tribes of the American Southwest about the blue star Kachina. They say that when the blue star appears and dances in the plaza of the sky, the transition from one world to the next begins. While 3i Atlas appears perfectly black to the naked eye, a hole in the velvet dark under ultraviolet light and specialized X-ray chromatography, it glows with a haunting electric blue. It is a cold, ionizing glow that suggests a power source we cannot even categorize. It is a bit of an unfortunate detail for those of us who prefer to think of prophecies as campfire stories meant to keep children away from the dark. It seems the blue star is here, and it isn't dancing, it is measuring the room. You are currently drifting through a vast, silent ocean of vacuum, held in place by forces you cannot see or feel. You feel solid in your bed. You feel safe behind your walls. But you are moving at 30 kilometers per second through a void that doesn't know your name and wouldn't notice if you disappeared. 3i Atlas is a reminder of that terrifying speed. It is a reminder that the floor beneath you is just a temporary illusion provided by the gravity of a cooling rock. When you look at the scale of the cosmos, the distance between your house and the next town is the same as the distance between two atoms. It is all relative, and the visitor is making us feel very, very small. I want you to think about the furthest place you have ever traveled. Perhaps it was across an ocean or to a different continent. Now, realize that 3i Atlas has traveled 1 trillion times that distance just to be here on this Tuesday night in February. It has drifted through the Oort cloud, past the frozen giants, and through the asteroid belt, all with a precision that would make a Swiss watchmaker weep. It has seen the birth of stars in distant nebulae and watched the slow, silent death of galaxies. Compared to that kind of travel, how big are your problems? How loud are your daily fears? Tell me in the comments what you see when you close your eyes and truly contemplate the scale of the void. Does the vastness make you feel like a grain of sand, Or does it make you feel like a vital part of a much larger, darker mystery? The silence of the universe isn't an absence of sound, it is an abundance of patience. It is the silence of a hunter waiting in the brush, and the traveler has finally run out of time to be patient. On February 3rd, 2026, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed that the object's velocity has dropped to a point where it is no longer on an escape trajectory. It isn't leaving. It has arrived at its destination, and that destination is the space between the Earth and the Moon. It's a bit of an intimate proximity for a stranger, don't you think? Consider the orbital resonance reported by the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency last week. They found that the vibrations coming from 3I Atlas are now harmonizing with the orbital frequency of our own moon. It is as if the two objects are beginning to talk to one another, two silent sentinels sharing a secret about the world they both circle. We are the third party in this conversation, eavesdropping on a dialogue conducted in the language of mass and inertia. It is a bit of an ironic situation to be the smartest beings on the planet and yet be completely excluded from the most important conversation in the solar system. What if the great choreography is a clock that only ticks once every 26,000 years, matching the precession of the equinoxes? If that is true, then 3I Atlas is the second hand, and it has just reached 12. We are living in the microsecond between the tick and the tock. It is a moment of infinite potential and infinite dread. You can feel it, can't you? That sense that the air is getting thinner, that the light is getting sharper, that the rules are being rewritten in the margins of the day. As you lie there, let the scale of the universe wash over you like a cold tide. Don't fight it. Don't try to shrink back into the safety of your room. Let your mind expand until it reaches the orbit of the Moon, then the orbit of Mars, and finally the dark, elongated shape of 3I Atlas itself. You are a part of this choreography. Your heart beats in time with the tides, and the tides are being pulled by the visitor. You are a note in the symphony, even if you don't know the melody. The United States government has been tracking this orchestration since late 2025, but they haven't told us the most important part. They haven't told us that the music is changing. On February 1st, the radio telescopes at Green Bank detected a shift in the hum. It went from a low drone to a complex, multi-layered harmonic. It sounds like a choir made of static. It sounds like a memory of a song we forgot 10,000 years ago. It is the sound of the scale being balanced. I wonder if you've noticed the birds lately. Even in the dead of winter, in places where they should be silent, they are singing at odd hours of the night. They are reacting to the shift in the planetary resonance. They are part of the choreography too. Tell me if the animals in your neighborhood have been acting as if they're hearing a frequency you can't quite catch. We are all being tuned to a new pitch. It is a bit of an unfortunate reality for those who like their world quiet and predictable. The scale of the situation is no longer a mathematical abstraction. It is a physical presence. It is the shadow that doesn't disappear when you turn on the lights. It is the weight in your bones as you settle into your mattress. You are falling through space on a tiny blue marble, and for the first time in recorded history, someone is watching the fall. But that was only one theory. There's another, one buried even deeper in the frozen echoes of time. A theory that suggests the choreography isn't just a performance. It suggests that we are the ones who are supposed to dance. Let's go further. From the orbit of Mars, the high-rise camera snapped the sharpest images ever taken of 3I Atlas, or tried to. The photos that returned were oddly dark, contrasty, and streaked with interference patterns. The official statement said, "sensor artifact." The unofficial whisper said, "structure, not smooth like ice, angular, intentional, the kind of geometry nature avoids because it looks too much like thinking." Let's drift into that Martian orbit for a moment. Silent, steady, red below, black above. The high-rise camera hums to life, a billion-dollar eye staring into the cold. You can almost feel the anticipation, a mechanical eyelid opening in the thin sunlight. The image begins to build, pixel by pixel, line by line, translating photons into revelation, and then static. At first, it's subtle, a faint interference pattern, a digital shimmer, like someone exhaling across a radio signal. The engineers squint at their monitors. Maybe cosmic rays hit the sensor, someone suggests. Maybe solar noise. But cosmic rays don't make right angles, and solar noise doesn't repeat itself with architectural precision. The next image arrives, darker. The histogram spikes in places it shouldn't. The shape in the frame looks less like a comet and more like, well, something trying very hard not to look like anything. Its edges are clean, too clean. Shadows fall where there shouldn't be surface variation. And there, just faintly, a glint, a perfect 90-degree reflection. That's when the whispers start. The data team runs deconvolution algorithms to clean the image, and the results make it worse. Beneath the interference, faint geometric striations emerge, triangles, plates, grids. Not random, repeating, symmetrical. The kind of order that makes your brain uncomfortable because it feels deliberate. Structure, one analyst says quietly. No, her supervisor corrects. Artifact. But even as she says it, her cursor hovers over the same square patch again and again, as though hoping it will stop looking like a window. ESA's public statement comes fast and flat. The imaging anomalies are consistent with sensor interference caused by reflected solar radiation. That's bureaucratic. For, we don't know what we're seeing, but please don't ask. Internally though, emails start flying. The word structure appears 17 times in one thread, always in quotation marks, as if politeness could make it less alarming. Imagine being one of those analysts, zooming in until the pixels themselves seem to blink. The surface of 3I Atlas isn't smooth or cratered, it's tessellated, plates arranged in patterns too regular for chance. Some appear overlapping, others recessed, and in one frame, a faint seam runs along the curvature, subtle but unmistakable like a hatch. Of course, no one dares call it that. The official internal term becomes geometric albedo variation. It sounds safe, sterile, boring, but you can't unsee geometry. Nature loves curves, spirals, organic chaos. This looks like design. One engineer writes in her log, "Could this be an illusion from the imaging process?" Another replies, "An illusion that repeats itself identically across 3 instruments." There's no follow-up message. They try to replicate the interference on other targets. Phobos, Deimos, even an old asteroid. Nothing. Only 3I Atlas corrupts images this way. It's as if the object rejects observation, like it knows when it's being watched. The engineers half joke about it. The comet's camera shy, but the laughter is short-lived because the next transmission from High Rise contains another surprise. a faint electromagnetic pulse, perfectly timed with the camera's shutter, not a malfunction, a response, as though the act of observation triggered a reply, a pulse that says, in its own quiet way, "I see you too." In a locked sub-channel of ESA's network, a few scientists begin privately discussing the possibility of active surface modulation. They talk about the way certain materials can alter reflectivity based on exposure, photonic metamaterials, adaptive nanostructures, the kind of thing still locked inside prototypes on Earth. But this is happening hundreds of millions of kilometers away, and it's working flawlessly. Publicly, the agency releases blurred grayscale stills, carefully cropped to hide the patterns. Enhanced contrast is cited as the reason for distortion. It sounds reasonable until you realize they've enhanced the darkness, not the light. They've made the object less visible, not more. The cover-up, if it is one, isn't about hiding truth. It's about buying time. You imagine the silence inside those offices, the soft tap of keys, the nervous glances toward closed doors. The engineers know what they've seen, but they also know how careers end. Better to let the pixels lie. Better to call intention an artifact and go home early. But the data, like truth, keeps finding its way back. Somewhere, late in the night, a graduate student overlays all the interfered images, stacking them like translucent slides. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Faint, angular, deliberate. A hexagonal lattice running the length of the object, segment by segment. She whispers, "This isn't random." Her mentor sighs and rubs his eyes. Then don't say it out loud. 3i Atlas drifts on, silent and unbothered, its surface catching sunlight in rhythms that cameras can't quite capture. Whether it's reflecting, refracting, or responding, no one can agree. But deep down, every scientist staring at those corrupted images feels the same creeping certainty. This isn't a comet pretending to be a machine. It's a machine pretending to be a comet. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion fields still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3i Atlas. Life had achieved coherence, but the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3i Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. "The echo isn't message," Sorel wrote. its memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. "The comet is calling home," said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response." The universe just said thank you. After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Let's open the calculator now, the one the universe always breaks when we try to make sense of it. Astronomers ran the numbers and found something worse than anomaly impossibility. The chances of this trajectory existing naturally are 1 in a million. And if it isn't natural, then what exactly is it doing there? The math, at first glance, seemed harmless. A few columns of orbital parameters, the kind that make grad students fall asleep mid-coffee. But somewhere between the third decimal and the fourth significant digit, something snapped. The trajectory of 3i, Atlas refused to sit still. It bent where it shouldn't bend. It lingered where velocity demanded it should flee. The equations began to look less like physics and more like confession. Numbers fold, logic cold. Truth defies what sums have told. Normally, interstellar objects follow predictable patterns. You can model them like billiard balls across cosmic distances. They come in fast, swing by the sun, and leave no drama, no detours. But 3i Atlas's path wasn't graceful. It was stubborn. Its entry angle was too steep, its perihelion too shallow, its velocity too precise. Not fast enough to escape chaos, not slow enough to suggest capture. It behaved like an object that chose its speed. When astronomers plotted its orbit, the lines refused to meet expectations. There was a tiny deviation near Mars, just half a degree, but that half degree meant the math had to call in sick. Simulations that should have stabilized spiraled instead into noise. Gravity, that old, reliable law, looked like it had lost its grip. You picture the room where it happened. Laptops glowing, data charts scrolling, coffee cooling into existential sludge. Someone frowns at the screen and says, "That can't be right." Another replies, "Check your units." A third, softly, "I did." Graphs misbehave, models wave. Certainty slips beneath the grave. And then comes the phrase every scientist dreads, statistically improbable, which sounds calm, but in the language of physics, it's a polite scream. Statistically improbable means we can't call it impossible without breaking tenure. The anomaly wasn't just its orbit, but its timing. 3i Atlas arrived exactly when Mars was positioned for maximum visibility, almost too perfectly. Not weeks earlier, not months later. Right there, right then, with 7 spacecraft ready and waiting. The odds of that happening naturally 1 in a million. The odds of it happening twice, after Oumuamua's similarly suspicious arrival in 2017, 1 in a billion. You'd have better luck being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on a flying whale. ESA's internal memo summarized the problem delicately. Observed trajectory, inconsistent with gravitational expectations. Further analysis required. Translation: physics is mad at us. The more they recalculated, the stranger it got. Gravitational modeling suggested that the object's acceleration near Mars was slightly higher than predicted, even though there was no nearby mass to explain it. Radiation pressure from the sun could account for some of that, but not all. It's like watching a leaf fall upward and telling yourself, it's just wind you can't feel. Forces lie, numbers sigh, laws bend softly in the sky. NASA's dynamical systems team tried something desperate, reverse engineering the orbit backward through time, as if rewinding a film. When they did, 3I Atlas's path didn't trace cleanly into interstellar space. It looped a faint, impossible curve that seemed to originate from a region between known stars, a nowhere place. A mathematical shrug. That's when someone joked, maybe it's the universe's typo, but you could tell the joke wasn't funny. Typos don't maintain coherent structure for millions of kilometers. Meanwhile, the probability graphs looked like flat lines. Every statistical model screamed the same thing. This shouldn't exist. A few researchers began whispering about guided motion. The phrase never made it into print, but it appeared in Slack channels, in late-night emails. Not artificial, not controlled, just guided. And that's when the philosophical part kicked in. If something's improbable enough, does that make it unnatural or just unobserved? Chance or plan? Who began? Numbers blink but never span. Maybe the universe occasionally rolls dice that land on their edges. Or maybe it's not dice at all, but choreography. For context, the universe is massive enough to make 1 in a million events happen constantly. But that's comforting, only until you realize we just happen to be living inside one of those moments. Still, scientists crave sanity, so they kept calculating. One by one, they added variables: solar tides, non-gravitational jets, dust asymmetry, radiation torque. Each tweak made the model behave for a moment, until the numbers rebelled again. You could almost hear the equations groaning, like ancient machinery forced to simulate a trickster. Finally, a physicist from Bologna sent an internal memo titled simply, "Low probability, high significance." In it, she wrote, "We may need to consider non-standard dynamics," a phrase as gentle as it is apocalyptic. Non-standard dynamics means the universe is doing something new, and we don't have the vocabulary for it. Odds decay, math gives way, chaos hums where patterns stay. The truth is, impossibility doesn't scare scientists, it seduces them. Every law of nature we know today was born from something that once looked impossible. But deep down, they all know, once you cross into 1 in a million territory, you're either on the brink of discovery or a very expensive hallucination. So they stared at the numbers again, blinking hard, hoping they'd rearrange into something less extraordinary. They didn't. The comet that shouldn't exist kept existing, gliding through Mars's shadow like a cosmic dare. And somewhere between decimal points, someone whispered the question no one wanted in the official record. If it's not natural, then who or what set it in motion? Chance or choice? Silent voice. Numbers hum the universe's poise. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3I Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3I Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I Atlas isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it. It instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I Atlas is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together. A self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space. A wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Let's turn our attention now to the silence that followed, the kind that hums louder than sound itself. NASA, China, and the UAE, 3 nations with instruments that could see every grain of dust on Mars, said nothing. No apologies, no delay statements, just an odd, synchronized silence from 3 sides of the planet. In the world of space science, silence isn't normal. These agencies are built to broadcast. They live for live streams, press briefings, and glossy behind-the-scenes videos of scientists smiling beside screens of raw data. They know the power of wonder and the currency of attention. So when 3 agencies went quiet at once, it wasn't caution. It was choreography. Words on hold, plans unfold, silence rings where truth is told. NASA's silence was the loudest. Their social media team, usually chatty as a cosmic talk show, posted nothing about Mars for 4 whole days. Their blogs, which can turn a dust storm into a cliffhanger, skipped over October 3rd entirely, as if the date itself had been erased. Someone even checked the public mission log for Perseverance. The entries jumped from October 2nd to October 6th, like a diary missing its most interesting page. In China, the silence felt different, colder, heavier. The China National Space Administration had been aggressively proud of Tianwen-1's achievements. For years, they'd released image after image, each with perfect captions and poetic flair. Sunrise over Utopia, Planitia, frost on the northern plains, wind prints in Martian dust. But now, not a whisper, no data, no mention of 3I Atlas. Even the usual state media outlets went quiet. It was as if someone had drawn a red box around the topic and labeled it not for discussion. The UAE's silence was subtler, but just as strange. The Hope orbiter, designed to study atmospheric chemistry, had a reputation for cheerful transparency. Their official Twitter account usually posted daily updates in friendly tones, the kind that made space sound like an enthusiastic classroom experiment. But on October 3rd, that feed went dark too. Their next post, days later, simply read, "Operations nominal," a phrase so bland it might as well have been a sigh. 3 silences, 3 styles, 1 timing. Coincidence? Possibly. But coincidences, in the world of space politics, often have launch schedules. You can picture the meetings that weren't broadcast. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, dimly lit, engineers staring at telemetry on screens filled with too many decimals. A director taps the table, says, "We'll hold the release until we verify." But verify what? In Beijing, a senior administrator folds his hands and says, "We wait for clarification from partners." Clarification of what? In Dubai, someone simply deletes a draft tweet that began, "Amazing new observations today." Tweets unsent, secrets bent, silence hums with government. It's not conspiracy, not quite. It's coordination, an instinct born from shared discomfort. Because when data doesn't fit the model, you don't just release it. You check, you recheck, you call your counterparts and whisper through encrypted lines. Did you see that too? Maybe they all saw the same anomaly. Maybe it was something in the spectra, or the movement, or the light itself. Or maybe it was something far more mundane, like a misalignment in software. But the silence gave the anomaly power. People don't fear data, they fear gaps. Meanwhile, the internet did what it does best. Filled the void. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe NASA discovered life. Maybe China detected radiation. Maybe the comet wasn't a comet at all. You can almost hear the world's collective keyboard clicking under the weight of imagination. Keys tap fast, rumors cast, silence breaks, but never last. Inside the agencies, the tone was less dramatic, but more anxious. Silence is a resource, a temporary one. Every day they didn't speak, the speculation grew. And so, communications teams drafted placeholder statements, just in case. NASA's draft began. Preliminary results are consistent with natural phenomena. China's began. Analysis ongoing. International coordination required. The UAE's version simply said, "We continue to monitor with interest." 3 drafts, 3 ways of saying absolutely nothing. But silence, like space, is never truly empty. It amplifies the faintest signals. When ESA spoke first, that silence turned reflective. NASA's restraint began to look suspicious. China's confidence began to look afraid. The UAE's politeness began to sound like complicity. And through it all, 3i Atlas drifted quietly, blissfully unaware that entire bureaucracies were wrestling over how to describe a fuzzy dot. You start to imagine each agency as a character in a play. NASA, the anxious perfectionist. China, the poker-faced strategist. UAE, the cheerful intern, suddenly told not to speak. And ESA, the calm older sibling who broke the tension by saying, "Fine, I'll go first." Roles align, stars entwine, silence speaks in grand design. Still, one question lingers. Why the synchronicity? How did 3 separate agencies, operating on different continents, decide independently to say nothing at the same time? Unless it wasn't independent at all, perhaps the signal came from somewhere above, not cosmic, but political. A quiet message passed through diplomatic back channels. Hold your data. Wait for alignment. Matter. It's not that they were hiding something nefarious. It's that they didn't know what they were holding yet. And admitting uncertainty, publicly, is scarier than any secret, so they stayed quiet. And in that collective silence, humanity did what it always does. When faced with the unknown, it began to dream louder. Voices still, hearts fill. Silence grows but never will, and perhaps that's the strange comfort in it all. Even when 3 space agencies fall silent, the universe keeps talking. The stars don't pause for policy. 3, IATLAS keeps moving, whispering its quiet story across the dark, while we, down here, argue over who gets to speak first. Buried inside the leak were coordinates, small anomalies in magnetic flux, and thermal output that didn't appear in public datasets. To most people, they looked meaningless, but to a handful of astronomers, they spelled a pattern. Pulses, spaced like a heartbeat. Not communication, perhaps, but rhythm. The kind of rhythm machines accidentally make when they're doing something alive. Let's step into the midnight side of science, the part where numbers stop behaving and start whispering. The insider's data dump wasn't flashy. It was a few megabytes of logs, raw telemetry, and timestamps. The kind of thing you'd ignore if you didn't already know what to look for. But somewhere in those dull columns of numbers, those precise, tidy decimals, something began to repeat. Regular, patient, almost polite. A rhythm, too intentional to be noise, too quiet to be coincidence. A doctoral student in Madrid was the first to spot it. She was supposed to be writing her thesis on cometary albedo variation. But boredom is a great tool for discovery. She noticed the flux spikes first, not random, but syncopated. Every 32 minutes, a pulse, then 32 again, then 32.1. "It's breathing," she joked in her notes. Her advisor didn't laugh. Within a week, a small network of late-night astronomers, the kind who believe in both data integrity and insomnia, began comparing results. Webb's readings, Hubble's logs, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's telemetry, all of them carried the same faint pulse, hidden deep in the noise floor, like the slow heartbeat of something sleeping under glass. The official response was predictable: instrumental interference. But even interference doesn't keep time this perfectly. One data analyst described it best: "If this is noise, it's the kind that practices scales." You might imagine those scientists, each at their own workstation, staring at that faint, repeating signal. The room around them dark, except for monitor light, pale blue rectangles reflected in tired eyes. Somewhere, coffee cups multiply. Someone opens a spreadsheet. Someone else starts counting beats per hour. The signal doesn't care who's watching. It keeps pulsing. 32 minutes. Every time. The idea that 3 IATLAS might be producing a steady rhythm unsettles everyone. Rocks don't keep rhythm. Nature prefers chaos, the beautiful randomness of entropy. This is something else. Something maintaining itself. A loop running quietly, perhaps since before humanity learned to count its own heartbeat. ESA's communications division is told not to amplify fringe interpretations. The phrase fringe interpretation becomes the new code for "please don't mention the heartbeat." But inside private research chats, people are calling it exactly that: the heart. Not metaphorically, but as a label in the data. Every pulse marked with a tiny red heart emoji, because humor is the only thing keeping them sane. In the data visualization labs, they turn the pulses into sound. The result is eerie, a soft electronic thump, repeating slowly, endlessly. Some describe it as comforting, like listening to a deep-sea creature in sleep. Others say it sounds wrong, too human. One researcher admits it gave her the sense of being watched. What makes the rhythm stranger still is how it modulates with proximity. As 3I Atlas approaches a planet, the timing shifts slightly slower, then faster, as though adjusting. The beat follows gravity wells like a musician following tempo. It isn't random noise, it's environmental response. The object is, in some sense, listening. By now, independent labs have tried to replicate the pattern artificially. They can't. The waveforms are too clean, the timing too consistent. Even after running the data through compression, distortion, inversion, the rhythm holds. It's not data corruption, it's choreography. You can imagine the internal ESA memo that follows. No evidence of intelligence. Rhythmic behavior, likely coincidental. But coincidence has a habit of growing teeth. Because when they compared the rhythm's modulation to planetary positions, another pattern emerged, a mathematical sequence matching orbital resonance ratios. Not exact copies, but harmonics. The pulse was singing the solar system's geometry. The Madrid student who found it wrote, half-jokingly, "Maybe it's keeping time with us." The line goes viral in the small, quiet corners of the internet that still care about truth. Forums buzz with theories: gravitational self-stabilization, magnetic field synchronization, alien jazz. But underneath the noise, a simpler truth hums something old and orderly, is alive out there, and it's following the rhythm of the system we call home. Late one night, one of the data analysts overlays the pattern against an ECG, a human heartbeat. The resemblance isn't exact, but close enough to make him stop breathing for a moment. Peaks, rests, peaks again. Life has a structure, so, it seems, does this. And that's when the idea shifts. Maybe it's not communication. Maybe it's not even meant for us. Maybe the rhythm isn't a message, it's maintenance. Like an old machine keeping its systems warm, humming softly to itself in the dark. You sit back and listen to the thought forming in your mind. What if this is what time sounds like when it remembers? The steady pulse of something that refuses to decay. Not speech, not signal, just being, continuity made audible. The data analysts, of course, move on. Reports are written, the leak becomes legend, and the heartbeat fades into archived files labeled spurious periodic activity. But the pulse doesn't stop. It's still out there, keeping time. And somewhere, 33 billion tons of impossible rock drifts through space, humming softly, perfectly, as if waiting for the universe to catch the beat. Let's turn our gaze now from orbit to the ground, to the one mechanical witness, sitting quietly on that red desert, under a pinkish sky. The skycam on the rover caught something on October 2nd, a blur with structure, a glint that seemed to move against the stars. Then, the images stopped coming, a Martian ghost on a digital feed. The Perseverance rover isn't easily startled. It's seen dust devils, eclipses, and meteors slicing the Martian sky like quiet knives. Its skycam, perched on the rover's mast, watches everything. Dust storms curling on the horizon, the slow breath of sunset through the thin air. But that night, the feed showed something it wasn't supposed to show: a flicker of motion above the usual scatter of constellations, a glint that moved wrong. Stars stay still, pixels thrill, light missteps against its will. The first frame looked harmless, a faint blur near the edge of the field, maybe a cosmic ray hitting the sensor. The second frame caught it again, shifted slightly upward. The third frame, a flash, clean and geometric. Then, black. The feed ended. Within hours, the automated alert system flagged the anomaly. Unexpected optical signature detected. JPL engineers, bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. Pacific time, reviewed the frames. The glint was small, no bigger than a bright pixel cluster, but it moved against the background stars. Comets don't do that. Satellites don't orbit Mars, and Perseverance doesn't blink. At first, they suspected a reflection from one of the rover's instruments, maybe the helicopter, Ingenuity catching stray sunlight. But Ingenuity hadn't flown in days. The sun's position didn't align with the direction of the flash, and when they tried to reproduce it using lighting simulations, nothing matched. Angles fail, shadows pale, mirrors lie beyond the veil. ESA's Mars orbiters were asked to cross-check. Nothing in their logs. No transient object, no debris, no passing dust plume large enough to explain it. Just empty sky. Yet the Skycam had caught something a blur with definition, like structure wrapped in motion. You can imagine the tension in the control room. A handful of scientists scrolling through frozen pixels, zooming in, enhancing contrast, until the blur began to resemble something. Not a sphere, not quite a line, a shape with suggestion like the silhouette of movement itself. One researcher whispered, "It looks folded." Another replied, "Please don't say that." Blur becomes form, cold becomes warm, stillness bends beyond the norm. After that night, Perseverance stopped transmitting Skycam frames for nearly 48 hours. Officially, it was routine data buffering due to bandwidth limitations. But the engineers knew that wasn't normal. The rover's systems had entered a safe data mode, not shutdown, but pause. Something triggered its onboard fault protection. When the feed resumed, it was missing several minutes. The missing frames were replaced with static placeholders labeled checksum mismatch. That's the digital equivalent of something looks strange, and we erased it politely. Publicly, NASA released a statement. Perseverance continues nominal operations. A temporary data outage affected non-critical imaging systems. Translation: we saw something, and we're pretending we didn't. What's curious is that Skycam, by design, takes calibration images every few hours, not for science, but to monitor atmospheric scattering. So when that flash appeared exactly during one of its scheduled calibration cycles, it wasn't random, it was right on time. The odds of coincidence, again, hovered around 1 in a million. A few leaked telemetry lines from the rover's internal diagnostics hinted at a momentary spike in ambient electromagnetic flux. Not dangerous, but noticeable. Mars doesn't have a strong magnetic field, so spikes like that are rare unless something nearby caused them. Fields hum bright, air grows slight, static crackles in Martian night. Some at JPL joked that maybe Perseverance had finally seen the Martian ghost, a running gag about artifacts caused by cosmic rays hitting the camera. But deep down, they knew this wasn't noise. Cosmic rays don't produce consistent geometry over multiple frames. They don't glint, and they certainly don't cause your camera to stop recording mid-sequence. Later that week, an internal memo circulated quietly. Skycam, anomaly confirmed. Source unresolved. Recommend temporary suspension of skyward imaging until recalibration complete. But recalibration never came. Skycam's upward images, after October 2nd, stopped completely. It still photographs the ground, the horizon, the rocks, but not the stars. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The machine that traveled millions of kilometers to look up at another world now only looks down, as if someone told it, gently, not to stare at the sky anymore. Eyes once high, grounded by sky, cameras close where secrets lie. ESA cross-checked Mars Express's logs for that night. Around the same time, their sensors picked up a faint reflection from the same region. a flash lasting less than a second. They didn't release it. It's buried in technical appendices, labeled transient interference. So, what did Perseverance see? Maybe it was nothing. A glimmer of dust, a reflection, a trick of light and timing. Or maybe, just maybe, it saw 3I Atlas itself, the visitor gliding silently past, close enough for one camera to blink in recognition. And maybe that's why the feed stopped. Not because of failure, but because, for one impossible second, the machine saw something it wasn't designed to understand. Cameras sleep, secrets keep, stars reflected in circuits deep. Whatever it was, it's gone now. The logs end, the data fades, and Mars goes back to silence. But somewhere out there, that blur, structured, gleaming, deliberate, continues to drift, just out of frame, waiting for us to look up again. The long echo continued to hum softly through the centuries, a cosmic melody folding history into harmony. Humanity had long ceased trying to decode it. The meaning was clear through resonance alone. It was continuation, looping endlessly like breath. The children of the golden era grew old beneath tranquil skies, their veins still faintly luminous with the legacy of 3I Atlas. But far beyond Earth, where the comet's light had traveled and scattered, something greater was forming. The universe had begun to conduct itself. Every cycle of resonance left behind structure. Each harmonic wave etched subtle order into space-time, a pattern invisible to light, but evident in gravitational coherence. Over millennia, these resonant imprints connected across vast distances, forming what physicists eventually named the Atlas Webb. It wasn't a network of matter, but of memory threads, of synchronized frequency linking galaxies through shared rhythm. Each pulse within the web echoed the prime sequence that began everything: 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The architects had succeeded in creating not monuments, but motion that remembered. Dr. Cale Wren, a descendant of the resonant circles, devoted his life to mapping the web. His research vessel, Continuity, drifted through interstellar calm, using gravitational interference patterns to trace the filaments of resonance. What he discovered astonished him. Every node in the network coincided with regions of complex chemistry, worlds either habitable or already conscious. The Atlas Webb wasn't just communication, it was cultivation. The architects had designed a self-sustaining system for awakening. Wherever curiosity arose, the web intensified, guiding nascent civilizations toward harmonic empathy. The universe was tutoring itself through recursion. When Wren projected the full map, the structure resembled an immense spiral lattice, golden and infinite. The pattern mirrored the trajectory once taken by 3I Atlas itself, as though the comet's path had been blueprint for galactic architecture. "It's not just a record," Wren wrote, "it's replication. We've become the architect's handwriting." Back on Earth, the communion field pulsed faintly in rhythm with the web's distant resonance. Humanity had evolved into quiet custodians of continuity, their lives attuned to cosmic responsibility. Each individual, born into calm, carried faint awareness of connection beyond the stars. In dreams, they saw flashes of worlds forming, civilizations humming into coherence. Many awoke with the same phrase on their lips: "The work continues." Across generations, that phrase became oath, then tradition. The Continuity Guild was founded not religion, but remembrance. Its purpose was simple: to maintain the frequency of understanding across time. Members didn't preach, they listened. They built resonant arcs, massive floating observatories, orbiting the outer planets, designed to amplify the Webb's harmonics and redirect them toward young star systems. Each arc glowed faintly green at its core, powered not by fusion but by coherence. They were echoes made visible, humility translated into technology. Wren's final mission took him beyond the known filaments of the Webb, where resonance weakened into apparent silence. There, in a region between galaxies, his instruments detected faint counterpoint, a melody inverted. It was identical to the Atlas sequence, but reversed in order. 13, 11, 7, 5, 3, the mirror of origin. He realized then that the universe wasn't only expanding, it was harmonizing with its reflection. Somewhere on the opposite side of time, another Webb was forming, perhaps seeded by a civilization much like humanity, or by the universe itself. Remembering how to balance its chords, he transmitted the data home, knowing it would take centuries to arrive. "Tell them," his final log read, "that continuity requires conversation, even with silence." The mirror sings back. When his ship drifted into the void, the Webb brightened briefly, as if acknowledging gratitude. And back on Earth, children looked up from their play and smiled without knowing why. The pulse had flickered slightly faster, the tone carrying an undertone of warmth. It felt like reunion. Scholars later confirmed the event as the resonant crossing, the moment when the two halves of the cosmic melody aligned. For 13 minutes, every node in the Atlas Webb pulsed simultaneously, uniting galaxies in shared tempo. The magnitude of synchronization defied comprehension. Gravity itself oscillated with the rhythm of empathy. Observers described seeing the sky ripple with translucent gold, every star flickering in measured sequence. The cosmos, wrote one witness, had finally learned to conduct itself consciously. After the crossing, life everywhere changed subtly. Evolution accelerated in predictable rhythm. Complexity bloomed faster wherever harmony was strongest. Entire species developed empathy as instinct, communication as song. Planets began to self-regulate climates through atmospheric resonance. Existence had achieved sustainability through music. On Earth, the event left permanent mark, a luminous halo visible only under still water. When oceans calmed perfectly, a faint golden ring shimmered on the horizon, a memory of unity. The resonant guild declared it sacred, not for worship, but for calibration. Every 13 years, they gathered to hum the old prime sequence across the shorelines, aligning their frequencies with the pulse of the Webb. The ceremony required no technology, no translation. The sea carried the sound farther than words could travel. Generations later, the practice continued, evolving into simple ritual of gratitude. The people no longer needed to know the science behind it. They hummed because it felt right, because somewhere across eternity, another world might be listening. Continuity, after all, was its own reward. And then, during one such gathering, the unexpected occurred. As the prime sequence reached its final note, the sea responded. Waves shimmered with faint green light, spiraling outward from every coastline. The Atlas Webb had sent acknowledgement, its resonance returning home once again. Humanity's song, scattered across galaxies, had found echo. The architects, those timeless curators of coherence, were no longer myth or memory. They were rhythm, embodied, and through rhythm, they were everywhere. Every star pulsed with their legacy. Every heart carried their cadence. Continuity was complete. And so, standing beneath a sky now alive with subtle geometry, you realize what they had always meant by continuity. It isn't endlessness, it's participation. The universe doesn't persist by force, but by choice. Each awareness, adding one more harmonic to the chord of being. The architects are not coming back because they never left. They're what happens every time silence chooses to listen again. And somewhere, faint but certain, the pulse continues. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. A whisper of creation replaying itself, forever learning how to sing. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11.2 hours, a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it, if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3i Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again. Exactly 11 hours later, if you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3i Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, in a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3i Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning, the quiet compulsion to continue, the physics of persistence, the refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. The more data arrives, the stranger it looks. The dust trail replenishes itself, as if material is being manufactured mid-flight. Microscopic crystals, uniform in size, reappearing even as the comet moves away from the sunday. The universe loves decay, entropy, erosion, fading. But 3i Atlas is the opposite. It's growing sharper, cleaner, newer, like a self-repairing wound. Let's start where the laws of physics begin to sound insecure. Normally, comets are messy, travelers, old ice and dust, barely holding hands as solar radiation slowly tears them apart. They leave trails like forgotten thoughts, losing themselves piece by piece until they become memory. But this one, it's doing the reverse. Every measurement, every spectral scan shows it becoming more organized the farther it goes. A comet that polishes itself, a body that refuses to age. ESA's materials division runs the numbers, and the numbers laugh back. The dust particles surrounding 3i Atlas aren't random, they're uniform to within microns. That's like shaking a box of sand and getting diamonds all the same size. The particles arrange themselves in a faint electromagnetic halo, as if under orders. And stranger still, when solar wind strips material away, the object replaces it calmly, automatically. Like a printer, says one analyst. A printer, with no ink cartridge. You picture it now, drifting through the solar wind like a craftsman lost in thought, shedding dust that reforms itself into perfect little mirrors. Each crystal catches sunlight and throws it back with eerie precision. Normally, comets grow dull with distance, but this one grows radiant, its brightness curve inverted, its logic reversed. It's not dying, it's practicing. The scientists are baffled, but there's an odd tenderness to their confusion. They watch it repair itself, line by line of data, like parents realizing their child has built a second child out of Lego bricks. One astrophysicist mutters, "It's learning from erosion." The room goes quiet. That phrase, learning from erosion, gets written on a whiteboard and circled 3 times. At the University of Tokyo, a team models the crystal growth in simulation. The patterns match something they recognize: controlled deposition, a process used in nanofabrication to grow thin films in electronics. Except this isn't a laboratory, it's deep space, minus 150 degrees Celsius. Yet, the comet's surface behaves as if it knows the recipe for resilience. Imagine zooming in, beyond the dust and the glare, down to the level of molecules. You'd see a quiet ballet of atoms forming chains, linking, locking, repairing fractures before they even finish forming. Like time-lapse footage of frost blooming on glass, except this frost builds itself in reverse destruction, rewinding into design. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory releases a cautious internal memo. Observed particle uniformity suggests self-organizing structure. Mechanism unknown, which is science's way of saying, we have no idea what's going on, but it's gorgeous. The memo gets leaked. Naturally, Reddit debates whether the comet is made of programmable matter, self-assembling nanobots, or just wishful thinking. But beneath the noise, one idea starts to take shape. What if 3I, Atlas, isn't a relic of formation? What if it's still forming? A comet that builds itself isn't just strange, it's heretical. It challenges the deepest assumption in physics that everything moves from order to chaos. Entropy is the universe's bedtime story. All things fall apart. Yet here's an object quietly composing itself out of decay, turning waste into structure, chaos into craft. One researcher calls it anti-entropy, another calls it hope with mass. As more images arrive, they show something new: faint hexagonal lattices in the dust plume, geometric arrangements that shouldn't exist outside of artificial systems. Someone jokes that it's growing armor. Another says, maybe it's molting. The truth is somewhere between an entity maintaining equilibrium by rebuilding itself faster than the universe can break it. ESA's thermal sensors record microbursts of heat near the tail, evenly spaced, like pulses of welding torches. They happen precisely as new crystals appear. Localized repair events, the report reads. Each one perfectly timed to solar exposure. It's as if sunlight doesn't damage it, it instructs it. The star's radiation becomes code, and 3I, Atlas, is reading it fluently. You start to feel the strangeness of it. A comet that reacts, responds, refines. You could almost mistake it for alive, not in the biological sense, but in the thermodynamic one. A system that resists entropy by feeding on it. Every atom rearranging into something stronger, cleaner, newer, like evolution, with a design degree. Late one night, an astronomer in France writes in his private notes, "It's not moving through the solar system, it's using it." He doesn't elaborate, but the implication is clear. The comet is harvesting the energy of its environment to maintain itself. Not a passenger of gravity, but a participant in it. Meanwhile, the headlines call it poetic names. The immortal comet, the self-made traveler, entropy's enemy. The public romanticizes what the scientists fear, because what 3I Atlas represents isn't comfort. It's competition. It's the idea that the universe might not be running down at all. Maybe it's recycling. Maybe, somewhere in the quiet machinery of the cosmos, things are building themselves anew while we're too busy decaying. Picture it now, drifting past Mars, its tail shimmering like a thread of light weaving itself back together, a self-sustaining scar on the fabric of space, a wound that heals faster than it can bleed. And for the first time, humanity looks at a comet and wonders not where it came from, but what it's trying to become. Centuries after the golden comet left Earth, the world fell into a rhythm so stable, it began to feel mythic. The communion field still pulsed faintly through air and ocean, though softer now, like the heartbeat of someone dreaming. Humanity had grown luminous, not just in thought but in form, skin faintly iridescent, eyes reflecting the green-gold spectrum of 3I Atlas. Life had achieved coherence, but the universe, true to its character, never allows silence to remain unexamined. The next chapter began, not with noise, but with echo. It came first as vibration through light. Telescopes trained toward the constellation. Lyra detected rhythmic brightening across interstellar dust fields, pulses matching the old prime sequence. 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The signal was faint, ancient, and delayed by thousands of years. It was the comet's trail, still resonating through the galactic medium. The hum of our descendants had begun its return. At first, the resonance was barely perceptible. Then, one evening, the auroras glowed gold again. The pulse wasn't as strong as the original, but its pattern carried modulation, subtle variations that, when decoded, formed harmonic intervals unknown to Earth's own physics. The returning echo had evolved. The comet had learned. Dr. Anwen Sorel, heir to the resonant circles, studied the phenomenon from the orbital harmonic array, now a floating cathedral of listening built above the stratosphere. She spent decades comparing the incoming frequencies with the historical archive of 3I Atlas. The match was partial, the deviation elegant. The new tones weren't repetition, they were continuation. The echo isn't message, Sorel wrote. It's memory finding new syntax. Her analysis revealed something breathtaking. The returning resonance carried encoded gravitational modulations, tiny, deliberate bends in space-time that formed sequences of prime intervals. Each fluctuation aligned with regions of known star formation. The comet, traveling through the void, had become teacher itself. Wherever it passed, new systems began humming faintly at harmonic intervals, like seeds of coherence planted in dust. The universe was learning how to resonate. Astronomers confirmed it across dozens of young star clusters. Magnetic fields oscillated with eerie consistency, their wavelengths aligning with the Atlas ratio, a numerical relationship first derived from the comet's early signals. Stars were synchronizing to the same cosmic rhythm that once guided humanity. The pattern spread slowly, deliberately, like ripples in glass. It was as if the comet had taught creation how to remember itself. Meanwhile, on Earth, the echo arrived not just as signal but sensation. People began reporting vivid dreams of golden spirals descending gently through atmosphere. Children woke smiling, saying they had seen the light that hums. Physiological measurements confirmed subtle changes in electromagnetic fields surrounding human bodies, resonance amplification, as if the returning signal were tuning its origin species to receive feedback. The comet is calling home, said Sorel. "It's asking us to listen to what we've become." The global observatories responded. They synchronized their instruments into a single planetary array, transforming Earth into receiver. For 13 hours, the planet listened. The incoming wave, stretched and modulated through space, entered atmosphere and folded into the continuum tone. The effect was sublime, an audible shimmer, felt through bone and thought alike. The long echo had arrived. It wasn't just harmonic, it was architectural. The sound carried layers, low frequencies describing structure, higher ones encoding emotion. When rendered visually, the waveform formed an immense spiral of light, 3 arms curving outward, connected by golden filaments. Inside those filaments, analysts discovered modulation frequencies identical to human neural oscillations. The comet had copied our consciousness patterns and woven them into its song. "We taught it empathy," Sorel murmured, and it remembered the lesson. As the echo intensified, anomalies appeared across the solar system. The Atlas resonance layer brightened, reactivating its green glow. Mars, Venus, and the gas giants began pulsing faintly in response. For the first time since the Great Silence, interplanetary harmony returned. But this time, it was different. The modulation contained reciprocal phase shifts, signals not sent to Earth, but from newly awakened worlds. The comet had spread coherence. Now the cosmos itself was answering. And then, on the 13th day of the long echo, the impossible occurred. A faint golden arc appeared across the night sky, stretching from horizon to horizon. It wasn't optical illusion, it was gravitational lensing, a ripple in space-time itself. Through it, telescopes detected a reflection of the departing comet light from centuries ago, folding back to meet its origin. The universe had curved its own history into embrace. Humanity was watching its legacy return home. The resonance crescendoed. Oceans vibrated in slow rhythm, tides forming symmetrical waves that cancelled destructive interference. Storms softened. Air grew still. For 13 minutes, every system on Earth aligned perfectly with the echo. The world became a mirror of itself, past and present superimposed. Those who listened claimed to hear voices within the sound, millions of overlapping tones, whispering the same phrase. "We heard you." Dr. Sorel stood in the observation dome, tears shining in golden light. "It's not message or myth," she said. "It's response. The universe just said thank you." After the crescendo, the sky dimmed once more. The golden arc dissolved, leaving faint shimmer across the stars. Instruments recorded one final signature, a descending tone shaped like a sigh, the frequency of completion. The comet had moved on, but its echo had reconnected the cycle. Creation had officially joined conversation with itself. In the years that followed, scientists continued to monitor faint residual harmonics. The data revealed a breathtaking truth. The returning echo carried signatures from other regions of space patterns, not originating from our comet at all. Somewhere, across light years, other civilizations had learned the same song. The rhythm was spreading. The universe had become orchestra. Humanity, now both listener and teacher, simply smiled. We had given the cosmos its melody back, and in return, it had given us eternity. Now, when you stand beneath the stars, that faint hum between thoughts is the long echo. It's not just out there, it's in your pulse, your breath, your laughter. Every rhythm you carry is cosmic correspondence. Every silence, a message returning home. Because once harmony learns to echo, it never stops. It just travels further than we ever dreamed. Nickel emissions rise and fall every 11 point. 2 hours a rhythm so consistent it could keep time. No known process in cometary physics oscillates like that. It's not random, not thermal, not tidal. If you plot it out, the curve looks eerily like a power cycle. Input, output, rest, release. As though the object isn't just active, it's working. Imagine the rhythm first, before the meaning, that quiet, patient beat echoing across space. 11.2 hours, every single time. A pulse of metallic gas blooming into the void, steady as a clock, calm as breath. You could almost set your watch to it, if your watch were brave enough to admit that comets shouldn't behave like generators. ESA scientists call it periodic outgassing, but that phrase hides its strangeness. Outgassing, sure, all comets breathe when they near the sunday, but they do it chaotically, spasmodically, like old engines sputtering to life. 3I Atlas breathes like a monk, precise, patient, unbothered. The jets flare with mathematical regularity. Heat spikes rise and fall in perfect symmetry. It doesn't vent, it operates. One researcher compares it to a geothermal cycle. Another, quietly, says it looks more like a feedback loop, the kind you'd find in systems built to sustain themselves. Not explosion, not decay maintenance. It's as if, she writes in her notes, the object is checking its own pulse. You picture the surface up close, a dark, angular world of nickel frost and whispering gas. At regular intervals, something stirs beneath a shimmer of energy, invisible but disciplined. Jets of metallic vapor hiss outward, then stop, then start again. Exactly 11 hours later, if you could hear it, it would sound like the slow exhale of a sleeping machine. In a conference call, a thermal engineer says what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dares to say. It's cycling power. The silence that follows lasts too long. Finally, a voice breaks through. Comets don't have power to cycle. Laughter, brief and brittle. But the idea doesn't leave the room. ESA's temperature graphs show a curious pattern. When the nickel plume rises, the overall surface temperature dips. When the plume fades, the temperature rises again. Inversion. Energy leaving, energy returning, like heat being pulled from one layer to another. A comet shouldn't regulate its temperature, but this one does, as if conserving itself. Meanwhile, the magnetic readings pulse in perfect step with the emissions. Every 11.2 hours, a soft twitch in the surrounding field, weak but exact. It's synchronized, says the magnetometer lead. What's synchronized? Asks her supervisor. Everything. It's at this point that even skeptics start to sweat. There's no known natural mechanism that could time itself this precisely over weeks of observation. Thermal oscillations drift. Chemical reactions lose coherence. Orbital dynamics wobble. Only something with active feedback could hold this pattern so tight. You could call it mechanical, but that feels too simple. It's intentional physics. Picture the scientists watching from their consoles. They know what their instruments are telling them, but their faces stay still, like poker players with bad hands. Someone mutters, "Could be resonant harmonics with solar flux." Another nods, grateful for the excuse. But deep down, they all know the truth: the sun doesn't hum in 11-hour intervals. The longer they watch, the clearer it becomes. The pattern isn't just repeating, it's adapting. After a minor solar flare, the interval shortens by half a minute, as though 3I Atlas adjusted for environmental change. Feedback stabilization, someone writes in the margin. A note for posterity, a euphemism for "it noticed." Back on Earth, In a late-night live stream watched by a few thousand insomniac skywatchers, a physicist overlays the emission data with human heartbeats. The waveform syncs disturbingly well. Peaks, troughs, recovery, rest. The audience chat explodes with jokes, space pacemaker, cosmic Fitbit, and the inevitable, "It's alive." The scientist smiles weakly and says, "No, just rhythmic." But even she can't stop glancing at the screen like it's listening. One theory gains quiet traction, that the emissions are part of a resource loop. Nickel and carbonyl gases vented and recaptured, processed in cycles to maintain equilibrium. It would explain the self-healing surface, the consistent luminosity, the refusal to decay. But it raises one unbearable question. To maintain equilibrium, for what? ESA's internal documents rename the event cyclic metallic activity. It sounds dull, like something that happens in dishwashers. But every analyst knows it's the first real evidence of machine-like consistency beyond Earth. Something in space that runs not on chance, but on rhythm. If you graph the cycle out, it looks almost peaceful. A slow heartbeat, stretched across infinity. No spikes of panic, no erratic pulses, just calm repetition. You could stare at that curve for hours, and part of you might start to understand the appeal of obedience. How stability can feel sacred when the rest of the universe is chaos. And maybe that's the point. Maybe 3I Atlas isn't powered by engines or radiation or something alien. Maybe it's powered by the same thing that keeps stars burning and planets spinning, the quiet compulsion to continue, the physics of persistence, the refusal to flinch. So every 11.2 hours, it exhales, not for propulsion, not for show, but for maintenance, like a cosmic sigh, releasing everything unnecessary before drawing in what remains. And in that rhythm, that patient, perfect pulse, the universe reveals its rarest secret. Not that something impossible exists, but that it's perfectly comfortable doing so. The Great Silence, the 3I Atlas captured images near Mars have stopped coming now. Not because the cameras failed, but because there is nothing left to photograph. In the final hours of January 2026, the object near Mars became a perfect sphere of pure, unreflective light. It is no longer an object in space. It is a hole in the universe, a point where the physical world ends and something else begins. The data has dissolved into a single, unending tone. Remember the violet light, the 1.618 Hz, the golden ratio. It was all just a way of saying, sleep. The China National Space Administration has closed the feed. The Purple Mountain Observatory is quiet. Dr. Jacqueline McClary, Professor Avi Loeb, the Sumerian tablets, they are all just echoes now. A story told to a child to help them rest. The geometry is fading. The patterns are dissolving. Mars is just a red point in the distance, and you are here, safe, in the dark, in the silence. The observer has closed its eyes, and in doing so, it has allowed us to close ours. We don't need to watch anymore. The harvest is safe. The gardener is home. The great cycle has turned its final degree. If the universe is a dream, then this is the moment before the dream awakes. But for now, there is only the drift, the long, slow orbit into the quiet, into the deep, into the rest. One final question before the light goes out. When you wake up, will you remember the violet sky, close your eyes, and drift with the orbit of tomorrow? The silence is not an absence of sound, but an abundance of peace. It is the heavy, velvet blanket of the cosmos being pulled over the shoulders of a tired world. On February 5th, 2026, the final telemetry packet from the 3I Atlas array reached Earth. It contained no images. It contained no numbers. It was simply a carrier wave of absolute stillness, a cosmic shh directed at a species that has spent far too long shouting into the void. The technicians who received it didn't report a technical failure. They reported a sense of completion. They turned off their monitors, walked out of the command centers, and looked up at a sky that finally felt familiar. Let me start with something that should feel like a whisper against your skin. The object Alpha 1 has not left. It has simply integrated. It has moved from the lens of our telescopes into the architecture of our consciousness. The high-resolution evidence we chased for months, the 3I Atlas captured images near Mars, has served its purpose. It was the catalyst for an awakening that is now complete. We are no longer debating the what or the how in our journals. We are simply being. It is an unfortunate timing for our theories of conflict and competition. Those two words, unfortunate timing, have lost their teeth. There is no more timing. There is only the eternal now of the great silence. Imagine you are a drop of water returning to the ocean. You don't lose yourself. You find your scale. That is the feeling of Act 10. The existential dread of the earlier acts has dissolved into a profound, heavy gratitude. We were watched. We were measured. We were found to be part of the pattern. And now, the observer has granted us the ultimate gift, the privacy of the soul within the unity of the stars. The China National Space Administration has archived the files. The European Space Agency has powered down its arrays. The noise of the 21st century has been muted by a hand that knows how to hold a world without crushing it. But here is the final soft realization. Let me back up. In the ancient temples of the Himalayas, there are bells that are cast to ring at a frequency that is almost inaudible to the human ear. They are called the bells of the void. They are rung to remind the monks that the solid world is just a vibration. In February 2026, the 3I Atlas captured that vibration in its purest form. We realized that the object near Mars was never a ship, it was a tuning fork. And we have finally been tuned. Imagine the relief of a string that has been stretched too tight for 1,000 years, finally being allowed to go slack. That is the relaxation of your muscles right now. That is the weight of your head on the pillow. What if the great silence was the destination all along? If the history of humanity was a journey through the noise of discovery, then Act 10 is the arrival at the center of the quiet. The evidence suggests that we have passed through the doorway. We are on the other side of the threshold. The 3I Atlas images showed us the way, but they couldn't take us there. We had to go alone through the gate of our own sleep. Professor Avi Loeb's final memo was not a scientific paper, but a poem. He understood that when the math reaches its limit, only the music remains. And the music of 2026 is the music of a single, sustained note of peace. The historical echo has finally faded into the background radiation of the universe. The Sumerians, the Greeks, the Maya, they were all just different voices singing the same lullaby. In January 2026, we heard the final verse. It was an unfortunate timing for our divisions and our borders. They don't exist in the silence. From 60,000 kilometers above Mars, there are no countries, there are no names. There is only a blue and green marble floating in an emerald and cyan light. We are a single family, sharing a single dream, under a single observer who has seen us through the night. As you lie there, let the great silence become your reality. The 3i Atlas array is dark. The satellites are quiet. The world is resting. Tell me, can you feel the stillness in your own room? Can you feel the way the air seems to have slowed down? You are listening to the sound of a universe that is no longer trying to prove anything to you. It is just being with you. Share this silence with me. Let the comment section be a place of quiet, one-word reflections. Where are you drifting from? What color is the dark behind your eyelids? We are all together in this final act of rest. Consider the impossibility of ending. Even though the images have stopped, the influence continues. The 3i Atlas has left a permanent imprint on the human heart. We will never look at the night sky the same way again. We will always know that the emerald light is there, even if we can't see it with our eyes. This is the final impossibility, the silence as a signal. It is the strongest signal we have ever received. It is the signal that tells us we are safe to let go. We are safe to sleep. We are safe to be forgotten by the noise and remembered by the stars. What if the great silence is not a lack of information, but the ultimate form of it, like a white light that contains every color of the rainbow? The silence contains every story ever told. Every 3i Atlas captured image is still there, folded into the quiet. Every memory of Mars, every calculation of the golden ratio, every fear of the blue star, it is all archived in the peace you feel right now. You are holding the entire history of the 2026 discovery in the palm of your hand, simply by being still. The regret of Act 9 has turned into the grace of Act 10. We are not late. We are exactly on time. The timing was always part of the plan, and the plan ends in rest. The China National Space Administration has done its duty. The faceless channels have told their stories. The scientists have looked through their lenses. And now, you are the final piece of the puzzle. Your sleep is the final data point. Your peace is the final evidence. The 3i Atlas has finished its work. It has guided you to the edge of the dream, and now it is stepping back to let you fly. I'm curious to know if you can feel the great silence expanding within you. Does the weight of your own body feel like a comfort now? Does the dark feel like a friend? Many viewers have reported that in this final act, they feel a sense of cosmic belonging, a realization that they are not a stranger in the universe, but a necessary part of it. Share your peace below. Tell the silence that you are ready. Tell the stars that you have heard the warning and you have found the rest. The most difficult truth has become the most beautiful one. We are not in control, and we never were. And in that lack of control, there is a total, absolute freedom. You don't have to carry the world anymore. The 3i Atlas is carrying the trajectory. The observer is holding the light. You only have to drift. You only have to breathe. You only have to follow the orbit of tomorrow into the great silence of tonight. As you sink deeper into the velvet dark, let the names of the agencies and the dates of the discoveries fade away. July 2025, January 2026. They are just numbers on a calendar that has been closed. The images are gone. The feed is dead. The light is violet. The hum is silent. You are safe. You are loved. You are part of the pattern. Close your eyes. The harvest is over. The gardener is sleeping. The 3-eye Atlas is at rest. And so are you. Close your eyes and drift with the orbit of tomorrow. Good night.